Hello and welcome to the Matt's Movie Reviews podcast. I am your host, Matthew Pejkovic, and this is episode number 570. Out now on Shudder is Night of the Hunted, a thriller that stars Camille Rowe as an unsuspecting woman who, when stopping at a gas station, becomes the target of a sociopath sniper with a secret vendetta. An exploration of deep-seated issues currently plaguing the United States, told through a cat and mouse thriller that deepens with every shot fired. Night of the Hunter also marks the latest film from director Franck Khalfoun, who I'm glad to say joins me now on the podcast. Frank, how are you?
Hi, hello. 570 episodes. That's impressive. My goodness, that's a lot of interviews.
Yes, it is. And, it's always great to be able to talk to filmmakers about their films. And especially when a movie like yours with Night of the Hunted, it's a film that on surface level, when you look at the trailer and stuff, it's like this cat and mouse thriller, one shot location. But as you watch the film, there's themes that come up from the conversations between the sniper and the lead actress in the movie. And for me, I don't know about what is your intention, Frank, but to me, the film talks about a polarized world. The world has become kind of like tribalized, and kind of like the psychoses that kind of come from that. Is that the kind of like the what you were going for in regards to the material? Because this is based on like a Spanish film, right? But that was a mostly silent film, The Night of the Rat, wasn't it? So it had no dialogue. So you guys had to pretty much give voice to these characters.
That's correct. It came from the story was interesting. It was inspired from a Spanish film, like you said, Night of the Rat, which was the simple premise of somebody being pinned down by a sniper. And we all thought that was really interesting. And then Glenn Fryer was hired to write a script, and he gave voice to the sniper, which at that point was a sort of psychotic person, chasing, like you said, a cat and mouse, chasing this poor unsuspecting woman, which is, already on its own something that we all fear, especially today in the United States. These random shootings terrify everybody, and you're just scared of sending your kids off to school. That's a real phenomenon that's happening. And so as I'm reading this thing, and I'm a couple things are happening, I'm saying, well, this is a crazy phenomenon here that we have, so let's address that. But why is this phenomenon happening, and what's happening to the country as a whole that's allowing these things, to take place? And so I felt that the script deserved more of a deeper sort of delve into American society. And all of a sudden I'm thinking, oh my goodness, we're in a gas station. The country is fueled by gas. It's the perfect place to tell a story like this. And when you go into a convenience store, you're surrounded by all these products, which I feel is another reason why we're so disaffected and hurt. All these terrible products we feed ourselves, obesity, dependence on fossil fuels. I mean, there's so many things that we could talk about in a gas station. And so, yes, you could do a cat and mouse, but there are elements in that place alone where you can, have an entire discussion about the state of the world and the state of America. And I thought that was really interesting. The big challenge of making movies in one location is how do you keep people's attention? And suspense is one way, certainly, but you can't just have suspense. Because if the whole thing is suspenseful, then it's not suspenseful, anymore. Suspense is hills and valleys, of emotional hills and valleys. And so, it's what we all learned with Jaws: the less you see, the more. And so you have to fill it with other things. And I felt, well, this conversation about America is just a perfect setting. And then I was looking for a gas station. I found one in the West, and I felt, wow, this is a Western. A person rides into town, goes through, an adventure, obstacles, tries to survive, deals with the locals, and in the end has learned something, and rides off, in the sunset. And here was a perfect sort of situation where we had that. So it's a Western for me. It's the next sort of chapter in America, and the population and how we deal with one another. And so these are the things I wanted to explore. And so that's where I came in and started writing the script, you know.
The Matt's Movie Reviews podcast is brought to you by Fandango. Get the latest showtimes, guaranteed tickets, browse Rotten Tomatoes scores, and watch trailers with Fandango, the #1 movie ticketing app. I'm always fascinated when there are movies where you have two characters and one is essentially off screen, but there's conversations had between the two. And I'm fascinated about how the filmmaking process is done, because some actors do it, directors do it a different way. Some directors have a stand-in, some directors actually have people talking through a phone line. In this case, you have this kind of like a walkie-talkie, two-way radio between these two characters. How do you go about with the communication between the two characters, two actors, I should say, in the movie? Do you have someone off-screen talking to Camille? Do you have Camille actually talking to the actual actor through the two-way? How do you make it all work during the process of the filming?
It's an interesting story. You know, I am always for practical and giving the actors the ability to, to be in a realistic sort of environment. So there was multiple ways of doing it. And I think, I chose to do the practical one, which means we had an actor off set with a walkie, and they both interacted with one another like it was real. And funny thing about it is that, Stannis was supposed to just be a temp person, because here's an opportunity in the same way we did Maniac, which was, you can have a marquee name for just a few days to play the role. Here was an opportunity we get a marquee name to just come in and do the entire movie in a day and a half in a studio on a sound stage, on a recording stage, and we could have a temp guy fill out. But he was so good that in the end we're like, well, this is it. This is the voice, and we kept it and recorded it, and it was just worked. And nothing makes me happier than to put on somebody who's never done anything, and to make them shine and allow them to, to participate. And it was organic and it worked. And, why do we want to distract from that? It really felt like it was working. So it happened there practically, and it gave her the opportunity to work live with somebody. Certainly, look, there's additions and voiceovers and ADR and all that stuff that we all go through on every movie. But for the most part, it was done right there, which was a Maniac was great, because, we thought we'd have Elijah Woods just, a couple of times we see him, but he's like, no, I want to be the hands. I want to be there. And so you realize actors really want to be engaged and involved, and they don't want to, those who care don't want to give up on the process. They want to participate in every aspect of the filmmaking, even if it was just his hands, or even if the voice, was there in this film.
The Matt's Movie Reviews podcast is brought to you by TeePublic. TeePublic is the world's largest marketplace for independent creators to sell their work on the highest quality merchandise. With over 1.2 million designs, TeePublic is sure to have something you love. I want to ask as well in regards to the sniper shots in the movie. The sound design in the film is fantastic, because every time a shot happens, it's just like there's this that kind of whizzing of the air, and then the thud that hits afterwards. It's really quite impactful and makes you kind of jolt every time it happens. What's it like trying to find the right sound and the right processes of getting that sniper done? Because to me, this is a movie about reaction. It's her reactions to the sniper, but then it's our reactions to watching her, and now also our reaction as well to the sound of the bullet every time it hits, especially when it hits glass, or it hits like the dense thud of it hitting flesh as well. I think it's a very kind of important aspect of the movie as a whole.
It's funny, because in the sound design, there was a discussion where we was having a big discussion about hearing that whiz of the bullet coming by, because is it more surprising to just get an impact, or is the suspense of potentially it coming? It's like the old bombs in the war. When you hear them whistling through, the suspense of it, where is it going to come? Does it heighten, the fear, or does it take away from the fear? Does it signal that it's coming, or does it add tension to the fact that it's coming? And I think, we discovered that it adds that tension, that little that coming. You brace yourself. You don't know what's about to happen. And so that was a big part of the sound design. Yeah, in a movie like this where you're in a single location, every element of filmmaking becomes heightened. You have to use every tool at your disposal and bring them out, because you have so little to work with, and so you have to use all of the filmmaking elements and make them and feature them. Everybody from every department has to go back to the roots of their skills and develop, from production design, where just a progressive sort of darkening of the place, or the lighting has to be used so that there's a progression of that as well. Just like the actor has an arc, all of these head of departments had to arc in their own way. They had to their craft. They had to be on top of all the basics and use every single tool. So every sound, every echo, every wolf that cries in the distance is calculated and placed in a certain place to sort of maintain the audience's interest and keep them engaged, so that you can propel the story forward. If you think about it, as a woman with a walkie-talkie on the floor, and that's the movie. So how do you sustain people's interest? It's and you have to use every centimeter of craft, every part of your filmmaking sort of tools, and that's really what I find fascinating about doing these single location movies. Same thing with my first film, P2. How do we make this box seem interesting? That becomes the challenge. So not only in answering your question, it was the sound sort of important, but every aspect of filmmaking in a single location becomes very, very important and very useful. And you don't end up needing, hundreds of millions of dollars to make an effective thriller. You just need well-placed, tools and actors and a good story.
The Matt's Movie Reviews podcast is brought to you by Gift Card Store. Australia's leading provider of gift cards, Gift Card Store offers a variety of prepaid MasterCard and Visa cards in physical or e-card format. You can even design your own card as the ultimate personalized gift. With Gift Card Store, you can gift the gift they will love. And you need a leading actor as well who can not only pull off the kind of like the emotional turmoil that this character is going through, but the physical turmoil as well. She's writhing in pain, she's bleeding, she has to crawl across this ground and pretend like there's a bullet coming from somewhere or anywhere. And then on top of that, it's like very conversational pieces happen between all this as well. So when finding someone like Camille and putting her into the film, it would have been, number one, an excellent kind of like acting exercise for her to pull off all this stuff as well, because not only is she the lead, she's pretty much in every frame as well in the movie. I can't think of any moments outside of maybe some shots to the billboard where the sniper's coming from where she isn't on screen. So it's quite an impressive feat that she pulled off there.
I think what a gift, and I'm indebted to her for such a brilliant performance. I think that she has the emotional intelligence and also the subtlety of her. I finally of her acting. I mean, I finally saw her on a big screen, because it's never given these days. And the nuance and the subtleties of her performance, which allows you to care for this person even though she's not particularly likable. Or maybe is it's questionable. Her character is somewhat questionable, and I think we had. I had notes from people telling me, she's not likable. And I said, to which I would answer, what? So she deserves to die? Everyone's likable to some degree. Just because we don't agree with somebody or what they are doesn't mean that we deserve to erase them from the face of the earth, which is really another statement, in the film. And she allows us to go beyond that. She's true to the character, and at the same time allows you to feel empathy for her eventually. And there's a moment in the movie where it's about 6 minutes of her, and I said to her, it starts off in a wide and ends up on our eyes, and it's just a sort of slow pushing where she sort of explains where she's at emotionally, and it's riveting. And I told her, if you pull it off in one shot and it stays in, won't cut away, and we did it a couple times, and It was late, middle of the night, and she had been crawling through the floor for hours, and it was exhausted, and you could tell. And she never left focus, and she stayed, with the character, and you feel it. And I think everybody feels it to some degree. Some people feel it more. I know women have connected to her because she is not perfect, and yet she's very strong female character. And so I was very, very. I was inspired by her. I had seen her in other things. I knew she could do it, but really she blew me away, in that particular scene. And she lived it. Like, there is a moment in the movie she talks about her right to have children or not. And that was the night that here in the United States, the Roe versus Wade had been overturned. It happened that day, and she came just distraught and upset. And all the girls on the in the crew were just terrible. It was feeling terrible, and she put her emotions forward, and she was able to make the character live through that. And I promise that day we shot that, people were in tears, on set, and you're talking about a cat and mouse thriller, about a sniper, and yet it had a profound impact on her. And I think she portrayed that beautifully in the film. And I'm very grateful for having her in it. She's a really wonderful performance. And, she, like you said, she's in every frame. It's amazing,
Please support Matt's movie reviews on Patreon. Get access to exclusive content, request movie reviews and top 10 lists, and help support my work. Please click on the Patreon link in the description below. It is amazing, and I think what this movie does, it makes people really reflect, it makes people think, and it makes people confront subjects that maybe they don't want to talk about. And I think what I'm curious in, just as a final question, is what type of reactions do people have in regards to the sniper? Because he presents himself as a sort of voice of the voiceless, and he brings forward some different frustrations and things, which I'm sure people agree with. They don't agree with the actions that he's taking, but maybe some of the stuff that he's saying can hit a nerve with some people, because it is hard times for a lot of people, especially in the US right now. So what type of reactions do people have towards him as a character in the notes that you've gotten back?
It's funny because, I'm watching the movie with an audience, and people are nodding their heads, even though they don't agree with what he's doing. They sometimes agree with, what he's saying. And there's a human behind there, no matter how twisted and messed up, just like there's a human behind her, there's a human behind this tragic, sort of horrible person who ends up doing, horrible things. And strangely enough, even though he's experienced terrible things, you still have a part of the audience who are who don't want to hear it. And there's a real meta aspect to the character when he says, when he talks about a dying child and not being able to take care of her, not having the kind of insurances, and people don't want to hear it. And they don't want to hear that part of it because of what he's doing. And I think it's a great mistake and a great disservice to each other when we're unable to listen to each other's arguments and unable to connect. Now, nothing, and I'm certainly not for anything that he's done or the actions that he takes. But at the end, I feel that, we're all responsible in a way for allowing the creation of these people, to allow people who are not well to continue to go throughout society without the kind of care that can maybe help them. So we're not. I think my big thing in the movie is that we're not all innocent. We somehow, and we're not all guilty. We all participate in this, and we all have a hand in it. At some point he says, just because you don't have your finger on the trigger doesn't make you any less of a killer. Because of what she works with us. So I think our inability to be responsible for one another is a big theme that resonates for me throughout the film. So the reaction has been mixed, but they, not because of the thrills and the suspense, because the character's abhorrence, and so you have to grapple with the idea that are you able to listen or do you disconnect yourself? And is it so horrible that you don't want to hear what the guy, has to say? So some people agree, others don't, and others just don't want to hear it. It's just too terrifying and too terrible, to have to even listen to try and process or justify, which I'm not doing. And I got to be clear, everyone's like, don't be on the side. I'm not, but I'm on the side of humanity, and what leads people to be so sick that they would harm other people is something that we can't continue to ignore and say, oh, it's just them. And, it's always them until it happens to you or your family. Then all of a sudden it starts to resonate. And that's really sad. And that's something that has been developing in the last few years, which wasn't there before. We were much closer as a village than we are now. And we've become, we've isolated each other from one another, and it just keeps getting worse and worse, it seems. So I was just trying to hold up a mirror to that, if I, in my own little way.
Well, I think it's important that there be confrontational art, and that confrontational art make people have that inner monologue, not only for them to discuss within themselves about what's about their own ideals, about their own politics, about their own subjects and things, but then to have that external dialogue as well, talk to other people about it. And that's why I highly recommend people check out Night of the Hunted, available now on Shudder. We are in spooky season. If you guys want to watch a really great, thrilling, one location story, but one that has a really kind of strong social conscience and heartbeat to it, I can really recommend checking out Night of the Hunted. And Franck Khalfoun, I thank you so very much for your time today. Thank you for your movie. And yeah, it's been a pleasure to talk to you today. I hope we can do it again in the future.
I look forward to it, and thank you for taking the time, and I hope everyone goes to see it, and I appreciate it if you do. Thank you very much for your time, and enjoy the movies.
Thank you for watching the Matt's Movie Reviews channel. Please subscribe for more reviews, podcast interviews, and exclusive content.